Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and this is my confessions, I guess you could say. Anyways, you obviously know what you're looking at this point. This is the Elder Scrolls Online, a game that I did not like at all in beta. I did not like what ZeniMax was doing it, I did not like what Bethesda was doing with it. In general, I just didn't like a lot of things about it. In fact, there was nothing there to redeem the fact that it was going to be subscription-based for me initially, to warrant even attempting to purchase the game when it released. I just really didn't want anything to do with it after the beta. It rubbed me the wrong way too many times, and I decided to turn my head on it. However, recently, two of my friends who live a great distance from me that I rarely get to spend time with started playing Elder Scrolls Online. And then I had the opportunity to get a copy of the game in 30 days for free, so I decided I can't really turn that down. I might as well give it a try, dive in and play with them, and give this game one last chance to try and pull me in enough to warrant me at least wanting to play it with my friends. So that being said, I want to give you guys my sort of updated impressions. You'll notice I'm only level 7. Let's go ahead and actually boot in with Rasputin Lightbringer here, my Templar. So this isn't like the end-all be-all of impressions, and I'm probably going to be playing the game over the next couple of months with my friends. I'll be giving you guys some updates on how I feel about things. I know a lot of you look forward to my opinion. You respect my opinion when it comes to titles and games, and I really appreciate that. So by leaving you guys in the dark and not letting you know that I had been playing this game and giving you my thoughts on it, I felt like I would have been betraying you. So I'd rather eat my past words, sit down, and try and tell you guys, what I think of the game about 4 or 5 hours into the very, very beginning of it. So initially, when I played the beta, let's get that out of the way. One of the biggest things that got me was that it just didn't feel like an Elder Scrolls game. It felt like an MMO wearing an Elder Scrolls skin. It just never really pulled me in enough to make me be like, yes, I like this. This feels like more Elder Scrolls. Because at the end of the day, that's really all I wanted. I'm not really concerned about raids and group running. I really just wanted to play it on a single player level, and then at the end of the day, be able to run into a dungeon with my friends and kill some monsters. That's really all I wanted the game to do. And in the beta, it didn't seem like it was going to be able to do those few things, and that was really what frustrated me. But I think when I played the beta, there was a couple things. I was rushed through it, and of course the fact that every single time I loaded up the game, I had to reset my character. I wasn't allowed to invest any personal interest in the game. It was a mistake on my own part that I'm more than willing to admit to. As someone who is still relatively new, I've only been doing, I guess you could say critiquing games for like 2 years now. And of course, I've spent most of my life looking at games in some sort of a light. But to take it on a serious note, it's something that I'm still learning. I'm still developing. Not everything I do and everything I say is perfect, and I'm more than willing to admit my faults. That being said, I do think I am very good at what I do, at what I try to do, and I think that I can usually create a very well thought out and just a very fact-based opinion on a title when I play it, and also an opinion-based opinion. As video games are often based on opinion, you can enjoy something that someone else maybe would not have enjoyed. While I do that, let me just let me get to the part of the map where I need to be right now to continue questing here. Let's go ahead and travel to that way shrine. So one of the things that does in fact impress me about Elder Scrolls Online is there is a lot of detail put into things. They haven't really half-arsed anything, so to speak. There's a lot of detail put into small things like teleporting there. You see, that could have just been something that could have just happened. Instead, you actually pull up a star map. It has a lot of nice Elder Scrolls touches that click for me. They've really started to sink in for me as I've been playing through the beginning of the game. Here's my Templar, and I've started to enjoy those aspects, and it started to feel more like an Elder Scrolls game to me. It started to remind me of Skyrim, Oblivion, even Morrowind in some ways. And I think that's a good thing. While sometimes it does feel a bit uninspired, as if it's almost trying to copy those previous titles a bit too much and then throw them into the MMO world, for the most part, it does feel progressive. It does feel almost like the next step, in an Elder Scrolls game, just in a different light, in a different setting. Let's engage in some combat. Because this is something that I have to admit they did a great job coming from the beta. I spent a lot of time in the beta playing, probably for going on 4 or 5 months, so, I definitely had a pretty heavy opinion on my thoughts on the game. And the combat was one area that I don't think they managed to improve until, like, the very end of the beta. It just felt very meh. I'm not going to say it feels great. To me, it's on the same level of something like Oblivion. There's not a lot of heft and weight behind some of the weapons. Sometimes it feels good, other times it doesn't. It's really hit or miss, but it's much better than it was in the beta. It's not better than Skyrim, which, again, isn't saying a lot because Skyrim's combat was never that great to begin with. It had a lot of disconnect between the player and enemies, but at least there was heft behind it. You felt weight behind it. And there are some good moments, overhead attacks and things of that nature, when you do a nice little charge up a nice attack here. It does have some weight and heft to it. Sadly, one of the things that I was really looking forward to, the first-person mode here, is still crap. It still feels just kind of slopped in. Interestingly enough, in many ways it actually was, because when they first started doing this, there weren't going to be any hands. It was going to be traditional sort of first-person MMO screen, you know, that you can zoom into on any MMO and play from that perspective if you wanted to. However, they added in the first-person hand movements. It's not terrible, but it's not worth playing in. I don't find the perspective to be well done at all. It feels just very, it's not enjoyable. However, it is nice for just walking around, taking in the world. That's just about all it does there. So still disappointed in that. I still think that ZeniMax and, you know, the development team behind this game could have went a lot further with that. I think that's something that was just a bit lazy there on their part. Let's see where we have to go. We got to make our way up the mountains here. So still unimpressed with some of the smaller components of the game. But I think the biggest thing that has pulled me in so far, the main reason I really want to do this video was, now that I've had time to sit here and invest and realize that, okay, this character is my character now. I'm not going to have to restart. This isn't beta. You know, I'm not going to have to make 50 different characters. This is the character that I get to continue to play as long as I choose to play The Elder Scrolls Online. And that's allowed me to sit there and sort of invest myself in the story a bit more, in the characters in the world. And there's something that I think is sort of shockingly well done. A lot better than I initially thought they were going to be. The characters feel like an Elder Scrolls game. You meet a new character, you know, they're voice acted, which of course is always great. Man, how the hell do I get here? One thing you'll know too is the the map is just as confusing as Elder Scrolls games have always been. I think what I actually need to do is make my way over yonder, so start walking. But it kind of surprised me, just how much I actually was willing to listen to the story. And I think that, for me, makes the quests, you know, more interesting than in your typical MMO. It's something that, as much as I love WildStar, what I've been playing that in the beta, you guys know I've been talking that game up like crazy. I genuinely think it's a game worth playing if you're an MMO fan, if you're still into these kinds of MMOs. It's worth playing because I think it's great in many aspects, but the story and the character is something that is really hit or miss for me over there. So far, I've actually really enjoyed reading the dialogue for the missions and kind of looking into things, and while most of them do end up being these sort of, you know, kill this many things, I mean, Skyrim was the same way, and the thing about Skyrim, for me anyways, was that they managed to flesh those missions out a little bit more by giving them a background and characters to tell a story of why you're doing the things, like, oh, my farm is being overrun, and, you know, if you do this, and it's just, it was just, the dialogue was really well spoken. It pulled the character in, and it made it feel like more than just to go kill those, you know, kill those 10 things. And it's the same way with Elder Scrolls Online, at least what I've played of it so far. I've been genuinely impressed right from the get-go, and I've probably done well over 25 quests now, and they all feel nice. I'm going to be honest. They feel nice. The characters feel nice. The small pieces of dialogue and element, they're enjoyable. I want to be involved in them. They're not something that I find myself clicking through. It is making me level up a lot slower than other people who probably play the game, but that's something that I think the Old Republic did very well, and I really haven't been able to find an MMO since then that has made me care about the story, about what was happening with my character. Now, I'm not saying that I feel like my character has been given their own personal direction. I think this game still has the same sort of old Elder Scrolls issue where you are just like, you start off as no one, and the idea is that everyone's going to treat you as a god. You're like the ultimate destructive power, and that's probably where this story is going, at least for the individual setting of things. It's just kind of what Skyrim has always been about, as in Elder Scrolls has always been about, including Skyrim and Oblivion, and even Morrowind to some extent has been about empowering the player as they move through the levels of the game. That still exists here in Elder Scrolls Online very, very much. Which is something that I do wish MMOs would kind of fade away from. I don't like being like the ultimate badass. I would like to be able to create more of my own personality in the world. And that is where the detachment has come. You know, even being able to create a character, the fact that it's an MMO takes away that little bit of, you know, personal discovery, a personal sense of accomplishment that you got from something like Skyrim, because you're now in a massively multiplayer world. There are many, many players doing the same thing as you, so you lose what little personal achievement in terms of your character's progression, you know, creating a character, giving him a face, and making him seem like, ah, he's the hero of Skyrim, you know, it's lost here in Elder Scrolls Online because it's MMO, and I don't think there's really much you can do about that, at least in the setting that this game portrays. That's something that I think a game like Star Citizen, gonna make lots of references to other games here because that's just what I'm doing. is going to allow you to make your own personal character. Not everyone is on the same quest line. You're not all thriving for the same goal. Sadly, that is the case with Elder Scrolls Online, and that's where it starts to lose me. Now, there have been some moments in the game where they try and force you into making decisions, saving a group of people, or perhaps deciding to kill a bunch of ghosts rather than setting them free. And at the end of the day, there's no real repercussions, and I think that's where I kind of lose it. It seems initially, the first couple times it happened to me, I was like, whoa, wait, you mean I have to decide whether or not we kill these ghosts or we set them free? It's like, well, obviously I'm going to set them free. I mean, there's no reason to kill some helpless ghosts. I mean, let's let them be on their way. May their souls rest in peace, all that good stuff. And when I was done and over with it, it just kind of felt like, man, I still ended up having to fight, like, the lead ghost. He was all pissed off. You can't tell us to leave. And there wasn't really a resolution that made sense to me, that made me feel like I had made a different decision than, say, if I had went back and decided to kill them all. I feel like I just would have had to fight them, maybe just more of them. So that's not something that has been, impressive to me. But again, it really hasn't. It's been there, and I've noticed it, and I will mark it as a negative. It's something that I think would have made the game much more enjoyable had they really been able to give a bit more direction, like the Old Republic did. But it's just not something they were able to do for whatever reason. Come here. Now, the last thing I want to talk about was the surprising difficulty of the game to a certain extent. Now, right now, my issue here is that I'm actually a little bit too high of a level for this area because I kind of made a mistake, which I guess leads me to talking about one more positive that I should point out, which is the game wants you to feel like it's an open world, like you have a choice to go certain places. Now, at the end of the day, you kind of do and you kind of don't, so follow me on this one. When you first start the game, at least around my level, you basically are not really told where to go. You don't actually know that you should go to the one area, to Bleakfall Barrows. I mean, you're kind of told to go there, but at the same time, you find that you have quests which are yellow, which are considered normal difficulty quests, or slightly harder. I mean, red would be, orange is pretty much something you want to avoid. Yellow is really what you want to be doing for proper experience. So you stay in that area, and then you soon discover that, okay, I shouldn't be here. I'm getting my butt kind of kicked. You then finally realize, okay, I should go to Bleakfall Barrows. From that point, everything starts to feel a little bit more linear, but they try and leave it up to the player to discover where they should actually be. At the end of the day, though, you really don't have too much of a choice. Now, maybe if you rolled in a group with friends, you might be able to go to a zone that is slightly higher level, but at the end of the day, you're going to end up leaving that zone that you discovered thinking like, oh, I'll just go here instead, because you're probably going to end up getting your butt kicked. So that's where the difficulty starts to come in. The game does have, the blocking system, and the actual dodge system. All of these things can actually be used in combat, and of course you have to balance your stamina. Again, a very classic Elder Scrolls element that feels very natural, but it's the combat itself sometimes feels less deep than it is, and other times it feels like the blocking and the dodging matters, and then sometimes it feels like it doesn't. It's been very hit and miss for me. I don't know if that's purely just, a design issue where it hasn't been actually balanced that well, at least at an early level where it matters. Not enough of the enemies, to me, have enough of the telegraphed attacks, making them really just kind of weak opponents. Some of them will take a decent amount of damage, and basically the plan is that, okay, if I run into them, I'm screwed because their normal damage is actually going to be enough to kill me. In this case, I think this guy's actually going to kill me. Let's roll out of the telegraph, and we're going to die. And we died. So the difficulty to me is it's kind of here and there. Sometimes it feels like it's too easy when I'm fighting a level character that should be the same level as me. For example, that Clanifer is a level 8. Maybe I should have been a bit more aware, but there's a weird balancing thing going on that I can't really figure out, and it's not there most of the time. I kind of just ignore it, and I enjoy the combat for what it is. There's, the blocking and the dodging mechanic are definitely welcome additions to any MMO. I really wish more games would be more inspired by what Guild Wars did, because Guild Wars combat, it felt so fluid, and it just felt really enjoyable, and the dodging system, all of that really came together, and I just thought it was a really good idea. The same thing goes with WildStar. What I've seen of WildStar really impresses me, and I think that if you're going to stick along this path of these sort of, real-time, semi-real-time combats, I think a merging of all of those different elements from something like Guild Wars and WildStar could come together to make the perfect sort of MMO combat system. So let's go to the nearest way shrine here. We died. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about, of course, is you guys hear me all the time voicing how I think MMOs need to change. They need to sort of branch out. And I think that needs to happen. I really do. I think that these sorts of MMOs are a dying breed. I mean, the thing is, people are still playing them. They're playing them in the droves. People are still enjoying them. I mean, look, I'm here talking about Elder Scrolls Online. I've been having a pretty good time with it. Now, at the end of the day, would I actually recommend this to people? I would say if you're someone who still finds yourself playing World of Warcraft and you're looking for a fresh world to explore, then most definitely. There's no reason not to play the Elder Scrolls Online. You're going to find a lot of things familiar, a lot of things that you enjoy, and you're going to be able to play it in a new setting, a new world. And if you're an Elder Scrolls fan, it's just an added bonus. However, if you're someone who is burnt out on the MMO and, you're looking for something to kind of kick you back in, or maybe you've just decided you're done with the traditional MMO format, you're looking for something new, I would say that Elder Scrolls Online is not for you, and I would not recommend it. I wouldn't recommend WildStar for that person either, for the same reasons. These are two games that are still very much following the classic MMO structure. However, they do things in a very polished, a very clean manner. They have interesting stories, or at least stories that manage to be different from what we're used to. And in the case of Elder Scrolls Online, simply a story set in a very familiar world for many, many role-playing gamers, like myself, and of course, many other people who have enjoyed the past Elder Scrolls series. So, in some ways, Elder Scrolls Online is more like Elder Scrolls The Ride, I guess you could say. It's an MMO that has Elder Scrolls all over it. But I think it's much better done than a lot of people may lead you on to believe. And I think that initially in the beta, my impressions of the game were a lot less than what they are now. But I still wouldn't mark it up there with one of the best titles you'll play this year. And again, as I said, unless you're a heavy MMO player who's looking to hop to something new from your typical, World of Warcraft grind, I still would not recommend the game. That's my honest thoughts on the Elder Scrolls Online so far, guys. I'll give you guys more updates as I continue to play the game. For anyone out there who might want to say, well, you only played 5 hours of the game. I played the beta. A lot of the components are still the same, and I've pretty much, what I wanted to do in this video was sit down and state the things that I thought had been improved from my initial thoughts, playing the beta for several months. Let me know all your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below, guys. And pretty much the one thing I wanted to ask you, because we've discussed Elder Scrolls Online to the death at this point, is what is your all-time favorite Elder Scrolls game? If you had to pick one of the series, I don't want to hear which one you think is the best. I just want to hear which one you enjoyed the most. Let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Oh, one last thing. I don't want to hear anyone tell me that I haven't experienced the game until I've spent 50 hours and reached endgame. That's not how an MMO should work. I'm tired of that excuse. I should be able to enjoy the game from the first 6 hours all the way to the last 100 hours. There's no reason for a game to take 60 hours to finally open up to the player. It's complete rubbish.